My Lords, I beg leave to ask a question of which I've given private notice. The question is as follows: to ask Her Majesty's Government what is their justification for denying Mr. Geert Wilders entry into the United Kingdom.
My Lords, under European law, a member state of the European Economic Area may refuse entry to a national of another EEA state if they constitute a threat to public policy, public security or public health.
My Lords, I'm aware that Mr. Wilders holds views highly offensive to the Muslim community, but freedom of speech issues often raise awkward questions, and indeed this ban has united in opposition the noble Lord Pearson and the Dutch government, unusual allies, and also a section of the Muslim community which cares about freedom of expression. Does the Home Office not agree that causing offence, even deep offence, to particular religious groups is no reason for compromising on the principle of freedom of expression? Why else did we repeal the laws on blasphemy? And since this is a ban on an EU citizen and Member of Parliament who has been convicted of no offence and who's been invited to a private showing of a film in this House, not a rally in Trafalgar Square, does it not set a deeply disturbing precedent for the vitally important question of freedom of expression?
My Lords, the government and I are great believers in freedom of expression. Indeed, I'm constantly getting into trouble, I think, because I'm too free with my expressions at times. But this is based not purely just on Fitna, on that particular film. It's based on a range of factors, including prosecution in the Netherlands for incitement and discrimination, and other statements as well. And the Home Secretary has to make a decision, as was said with anyone coming in, if they are a threat to public policy or public security in particular. And we are constantly looking at this, and we are very robust about it with all sorts of extremists, from whichever corner they might come from. We are very robust about it. I regularly, across my desk, am having to give advice to the Home Secretary about stopping people coming into this country because I don't think it's appropriate they should be here. And I think it's good that we are being robust about this, and I think it's absolutely appropriate the Home Secretary should have made this decision.
My Lords, there seems to be a bit of a lottery as to who is admitted and who is not. Are there any criteria by which the Home Secretary works, even if advised by the noble Lord the Minister, to justify who is refused admittance and who is not?
My Lords, there is effectively a list of things that the Home Secretary will check through when she's making a decision about whether someone should be allowed into this country or not. And of course, as the House will well know, quite often we will say someone shouldn't come in, and those people then appeal, and through our judicial system it's decided that they should be allowed to come into the country. And that's one of the great strengths and joys of this country, is that there is that very robust approach to these things. Sometimes, I have to say, it surprises many of us that that person is allowed to come in and continue saying things, because it does seem very strange, again, from whatever persuasion they come from. But there is a list, it is checked through, and as I say, the Home Secretary thought very long and hard about this. It was based on a whole raft of things, not just this particular film. And I believe it was the correct decision.
My Lords, could I just take the opportunity to thank the noble Lord Taverne for this question? And could I suggest to the noble Lord the Minister, and perhaps he'll correct me if I'm wrong, but a man is innocent until he is proved guilty. And my only other question, because I don't want to spend long on this, my Lords, is does the noble Lord think that this situation would have occurred if Mr. Wilders had said, ban the Bible? And if it would not have occurred, why would it not have occurred? And surely the violence and the disturbance which may arise from showing this film in this country is not caused by the film, which merely attempts to show how the violent Islamist uses the Quran to perpetrate his terrible acts. The violence, my Lords, is coming from the jihadist, the violent Islamist, and surely, my Lords, the government, in doing what it's done, is therefore guilty of appeasement.
My Lords, I certainly don't think we're guilty of appeasement in any way whatsoever. I don't want to go down the route of discussing a hypothetical case about what if he talked about this, what if he talked about that. And indeed, I'm afraid I am rather constrained exactly what I can say about him, because, as I say, he is actually under prosecution in the Netherlands on incitement and discrimination. Clearly, anything I say in this House could become involved in that, and I would not wish that to happen. It would be wrong if that was the case. Also, he can, of course, appeal against the Home Secretary's decision. And again, anything I say here could be taken there. I go back on what I said. We are very robust across the board. We take no sides on this. People who we believe are a threat to the security and safety of this nation, we treat in exactly the same way from whatever cloth they come, and that is extremely important. I believe this was the right decision.
My Lords, the Noble Lord Minister has talked about incitement. Reference has been made to the possibility of counter-protests. These are public order matters. The criterion the Minister should be operating under is public security, which is a different thing.
My Lords, again, I really cannot go too far down this route because, as I say, these things will be looked at in the Court of Appeal and in court in another nation. And I do not wish to go down this route. I think it would be wrong for me to do so.
My Lord, Noble Lord Minister. Matter which might enable us to make up our minds. Who brought this matter to the attention of the Home Secretary? I mean, since this man is an EU citizen, he doesn't have to apply specially to come to our country. How did this become a matter of public policy?
My Lords, I'm afraid I can't give my noble friend an answer to that because I'm not quite sure how it did actually come to the Home Secretary's attention. I was first aware of this, I think, about a week ago when I was first aware that it was going to happen, but I do not know the answer. If maybe I could come back in writing when I can discover it.
Will the Minister...
Godwin. 20 years ago, the government was robust in its defence of Mr. Salman Rushdie when he published the book The Satanic Verses. And this book actually, as we all know, did cause, or not cause, but did provoke a number of riots and demonstrations and indeed some violence within the community. Nevertheless, the government did remain steadfast in its defence on a free speech basis. And I wonder whether the Minister could say what has actually changed.
My Lords, I don't think anything has changed. I think there's a difference to the fact that he was, I think, at that stage based in this country writing his book, and I'm sure there are other factors that are involved in that. And I think if today he was writing things that we felt were going to cause a real problem, and I've got to be careful here because we're going to hypothetical areas, that we would be as robust. We are robust, as I say, whatever people's cloth, if we believe it is something that goes beyond just having an extreme view. People, of course, can have extreme views, but I'm sure all of us have views about things that no one would challenge, and we might not agree with them, but they're things that one is allowed to have. But this is a step beyond. As I say, I don't want to talk in the full detail of it. It is to do with a whole range of factors, including his prosecution, including other statements, and as I say, I think it was the correct decision.
The Minister has looked at precedent, and could he please tell us, when was the last time that a democratically elected politician from an EU country was denied access to Great Britain, and the last time that a democratically elected politician was denied access to speak in this House?
My Lords, I'm afraid I don't know the answer to that, and I would have to come back to you in writing if I may. I don't like making excuses for things, but I was only aware there was this question about 23 minutes ago, and there were two questions in between. And I feel rather like the Eugene Esmond, who 67 years ago today flew a few swordfish at the Gneisenau, Scharnhorst and Prince Eugen, and sadly was lost and got a VC doing it. I feel I'm sort of stepping into the breach for that, but I don't know the answer, and I will get back to you in writing.
Order referred to